So, Euphoria has finally finished, and I think most of us were looking forward to this moment, even those who had started off as fans of the series. 3 seasons have been dragged out over 7 years. The last season came out a whopping 4 years ago. Every time a character now appeared on screen, it was like, oh yeah, that person also existed. Child actors are now A-listers with their adult projects and clearly don't want to be associated with their teen roles anymore. Lead actors passed away in real life and their roles had to be rewritten in ways which often weren't as respectful as I expected. So although I did shed a tear or two this morning when I finished the final episode, but I also sighed in relief. And don't worry, I won't spoil the plot if you haven't seen the series yet. I'm actually surprised how many spoilers I myself was able to dodge, as I watched every episode at least 1 or 2 days later than the US audience. The first 2 seasons of Euphoria were set in high school and revolved around high school problems, but pushed to the absolute extreme. Kids doing every drug imaginable, school feeling like a strip club, parties and sex that looked like a Project X situation. And after 2 seasons of basically just that and cheating among themselves, we finally got a more adult season. I mean, they're literally nearly 10 years older now. We've left high school and everyone's taken their path, which is also a very convenient plot device to cut out some characters entirely and avoid having everyone filming together. For example, it's pretty obvious Jacob Elordi probably filmed most of his scenes alone or with just a couple of actors. Same for many of Hunter Schafer's scenes. Zendaya has such a busy career that they had to rush her scenes, filming them as fast as possible, which isn't ideal. Bobby Ferreira, who played Kat, said they tried to figure out some way to include her character and they just literally couldn't. Labyrinth removed all his music and said, fuck you, Euphoria. So Hans Zimmer did the score, and there are probably a million other production issues and conflicts, disagreements that we don't even know about. I know there must be mixed feelings of gratitude too. Jacob Elordi probably wouldn't be anywhere near where he is now without Euphoria. Same for Sydney Sweeney and Hunter Schafer, most of the cast, except Zendaya and a few actors who were already known before the series. It just all feels like this botched attempt at a mix and match to bring in everybody together for this final season, where everybody has just taken such different paths and so much has happened in the meanwhile. But I also have to come to terms with the fact that this is clearly a lighter series aimed at a younger audience with less pretentious views, and also at an audience that is clearly viewing this series in a different way. It was shocking to read how many people online are just openly admitting to have watched the series while on their phones. So imagine how people are watching movies right now, and admitting that they didn't understand very basic plot elements. In one of my videos a while back, I actually spoke about how Netflix now produces films and series, keeping in mind that people are going to put their content on as a background while they're scrolling on their phone or they're doing other things like cooking. So the dialogue is written in a manner which will explain plot elements very clearly. There'll be less emphasis on other elements like the cinematography. It's a whole new dystopian horrible business. So obviously with Euphoria, we completely ignore obvious sloppy writing, like savvy characters suddenly conveniently slipping up and revealing information of things that obviously wouldn't happen. I'm not even going to get into what I read people saying about that Nate scene. We briefly skip past very important deaths, but then we clearly take a long time to focus on a single BBL. Characters discuss elements in a way which is clearly to provide exposition to us viewers without taking the time to go into it, but we do have time for Sydney Sweeney's boobs pressed on a window. We're supposed to believe that all these people, except Rue, fresh out of high school, end up in these fancy jobs. I mean, I get what Jules does to get her big money, but to the point of living that kind of life? I mean, at least Rue works at a smoke shop and drives an Uber. That's the most realistic outcome. Now, although many of these characters have moved into their more adult lives, their personalities haven't really changed. Maddie is still laser focused, Rue is still struggling with the consequences of years of addiction, Nate is realizing high school popularity doesn't always mean real life success, Jules is still figuring out love, and then there's Cassie. Now, I don't like Sydney Sweeney as an actress. In general, I think it is widely accepted that Sydney Sweeney isn't a particularly good actress, and most of her fame, if not all of it, comes from her looks. But her role as pitiful, crying, big baby Cassie is actually one of her better executed performances. Cassie is meant to be annoying, insecure, attention-seeking, torn between using her looks and resenting how she's treated because of them, and Sydney Sweeney's public image kind of mirrors that. It might take years, if not decades, made for her to avoid being typecast. Even her more serious roles, such as boxer Christy Martin, were mostly covered in the media because of her so-called ugly appearance and weight change. A big problem of Euphoria has always been the emphasis on the aesthetics rather than the actual quality of the acting and delivery, which is often abysmal. I mean, Alexa Demie looks absolutely stunning, but her acting is really stiff. Same for Hunter Schafer and many of the younger cast members. I love Coleman Domingo. I think he's one of the best actors working at the moment, and you can see immediately the gap in acting whenever he shares a scene with others. That's real acting, not Maud Apatow's quirky raised eyebrow or Chloe Cherry's screams. Then there's the issue of actors who passed away, and it's always difficult to handle that kind of situation. I have no clue what kind of contract was drawn up with these actors. Angus Cloud was apparently meant to have a much bigger role this season after how beloved his side character became, but he passed away and his absence had to be rewritten. I won't spoil how, but for how it was done, I feel it would have been best just left out entirely, except for the last final episode's reference. I think it was different with Eric Dane, as he was still alive during shooting, but his medical condition affected his movement and speech. But apparently the way in which this was integrated into the show was agreed upon with the actor himself. Again, when they're these long projects, it's a really tough situation to handle. I'm just grateful that we didn't get those CGI monstrosities I'm reading about, like for example Val Kilmer basically resurrected with AI to act in a film that he didn't even shoot. This is pure dystopia. I was intrigued by Euphoria when it started, and then it basically became like watching an avalanche you just can't look away from. This season finally moves away from the unrealistic, the high school setup into something more grounded, where addiction and crime have real consequences, people die, get arrested, families break, debts pile up, even if it still keeps its theatrical tone. There's also a big discussion about how sex and the female body are portrayed this season. The show has never been shy about it, but here there are very long adult sequences that sometimes feel repetitive, and which I have a feeling were included just to get people curious into watching the series. A lot of it makes sense narratively. I mean, a huge chunk of the story is set within a strip club, and there is a lot of discourse about exploitation, but it does feel stretched at points. After the first 10 times we see Cassie's basically porn scene, it feels like the point has been made. Do we really need another 100 shots? Do we really need her dressed up as a toddler? Do we really believe that Cassie would wear that to her wedding, all jiggling down to the altar, or was that just so that everybody would talk about it online? Anyway, I don't want to get too negative about the series. I mean, if I watch until the end, it must mean that I did get some form of enjoyment out of it. One thing I did really enjoy from this third season, for example, was the emphasis on religion, which had appeared before, but which becomes a stronger theme here. The final episode of the season nearly felt like a movie of its own. The Western standoff duel vibe that had been building up throughout the series reached its climax. And although they have announced that this final episode was the absolute end of the series, I wouldn't be surprised if they came out with a spin-off series or something connected to this because of how successful it was. Some side characters ended up being more popular than expected, like Bishop, one of the bodyguards, whose story was clearly left open. That kind of thing usually signals that somebody in production wasn't quite ready to close the door. But now I'm curious to know what you think about Euphoria. Did you stick with it right until the end? Did you give up halfway? Let me know everything with a comment down below. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.